Well, let's talk to political commentator John Oxley, who joins us now. Morning to you, John.
Morning.
What do we make of this as a scheme? I guess the key point is, although he's got a meeting with President Macron today, this is about the EU and not just unilateral deals with a country like France.
That's right, and it's a whole EU issue. There's concerns not just in France but also Italy, which has its own issues with migrants, and voted for a populist president on an anti-migrant platform. And if there is going to be a deal, it has to be with the entire EU. This is much more about just kicking things off, just trying to build those relationships. This isn't a binding summit. There's no pressure to make a deal. It really is quite tentative for Keir Starmer and putting out the feelers about what sort of thing is possible with Europe rather than getting everything done today.
Could it be a reset button for our relationship with Europe?
Absolutely. This is a new Prime Minister. It's not someone who was involved in Brexit. It's someone who is building a new relationship. Not just him, but we also have some relatively new EU leaders on the scene as well, who he'll be building relationships with, who aren't necessarily tarnished by the acrimony and the back and forth that happened after 2016.
But Keir Starmer is tarnished by that, isn't he? He was all for a second referendum. So we were told. He's changed his mind since then.
But that's potentially something that's going to help with the reset when he's back talking to these EU leaders and trying to get a deal out of them around migration and the other issues that this European summit's talking about.
What's this European summit for? Because it was set in place by Liz Truss, wasn't it?
Yes, so it was set up a couple of years ago, primarily in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And so it's about bringing European leaders together, particularly around security. But the big problem with it, it doesn't have a strong agenda, it doesn't have a strong body behind it. So, for many, it's more of a talking shop rather than something that really produces major outcomes and agreements.
This is a win, though, isn't it, for the government so far? Because I think it was Germany and Italy refused to be part of the last EPC summit because of Rishi Sunak's kind of flirtation about leaving the ECHR. So now he's actually brought them to the table, Keir Starmer, with this by committing to staying in the ECHR. Yeah,
so that has helped pave the way with some of the European countries. And it is a wonderful opportunity as a new Prime Minister. He's taking all these leaders, it's all at Blenheim Palace, it's a big, grand diplomatic affair. So it should be a good way of kicking off those relationships and hopefully building a bit of goodwill that will eventually translate into deals around security, around energy and on migration as well.
But it's going to set a lot of alarm bells off with people, and perhaps with people watching and listening right now, in the idea, at least, that we would agree to be part of a European scheme where they divvy up the number of asylum seekers, if you like, per country. You have to take your share. Well, a lot of people won't like that.
No, but this is something that's historically been the case and, is a big issue for some of the other countries around Europe. If you're Italy or Greece, where there are significant numbers of cross-Mediterranean migrants, Poland that has issues of people coming over from the Belarusian border, which Russia and Belarus are stoking. You can see why those countries are angry too and want to pass this burden around. And ultimately, if Britain wants to try and reduce the small boats, probably one of the sort of carrot it has to put forward in that is saying, from people who arrive in Europe who want to come here, we are going to take some of them, and that's the carrot. And then as well, there will be the stick of cracking down on the migrant gangs.
But it ultimately means that we don't have necessarily full control of our borders, which is what Brexit was all about.
Well, we have control over what we agree to, and the idea behind the people pushing this deal is if we can agree a legal route for people to come through part of this scheme, that will help push down and discourage and allow us to be a bit tougher on the migrants that are coming here, trying to jump the queue and getting across the channel illegally, and we'll be more free to send some of those back to the rest of Europe.
We know that people crossing the channel, small boat crossings, is a really important issue, isn't it, to the electorate? How much patience do you think they'll have with this sort of rhetoric and talk? Because there's still no concrete plan, is there? We're talking with France about a potential deal to send back some migrants that cross the channel. There's still no concrete plan in place.
No, that's absolutely the case. And I think Keir Starmer's going to end up in the same position really as Rishi Sunak did over Rwanda, where nothing really was happening, the numbers weren't coming down. We're seeing now as the summer becomes a bit milder, these crossings are going to go up. The big determinant at the moment is what's the weather like on the channel. So I think, if you're the government, you're going to want something concrete, and particularly the electorate will be looking for something concrete pretty quickly. And even if there's a bit of the leeway this summer, by next summer, when the weather improves again, people are going to want to see a big downturn in the number of people coming across in these small boats.